All right. Hey, everyone. We are back. It's Monday. It's Monday. Yeah.
Family
Ariel
Day.
Jarvis. Woo. All right. James Gardner, Ariel Jarvis, of course. Conversations on vitality. These are our little offerings for you to provide you with some insight, maybe some education, some inspiration, motivation to take charge of your health, your vitality, and live a great life. Ariel, welcome as
Yes.
always.
How are you today?
I'm amazing. Thank you for
Good.
asking. And you? How
Good.
are you today?
I'm great.
Awesome. I know. We're rock stars. It's just a great day. It's a great day to be alive. Every day is a great day to be alive. Okay. Now we're going to talk today. We're going to talk about a pesky little thing that can live in the human body
hmm
and can cause a myriad of issues, which I find is fascinating. So we're going to talk today about Candida.
hmm
And why don't you break this down for us? People know yeast, but maybe they don't know the name Candida. So let's start
Yeah.
there.
So, what people don't realize is Candida, they just think of like a toe fungus or a yeast infection, but it actually goes a lot deeper than that. It is a spore that is fed by sugar and breads that have yeast that helps it grow and rise. And so what happens is it's not just found, on the external of the body, but internal.
Mm.
So when you're born, you're in the embryonic fluid, which is slightly alkaline. And so when a baby comes out, they have that baby smell. And then once you start eating certain things, it has a lot to do with the mother's pH, the mother's gut health, and what she's physically eating, because that will actually break down and it will start to produce a healthy or unhealthy ecosystem of the infant's gut. And then what happens is the pH levels start to change, the microbiome starts to get affected. And if you're someone that suffers with gut issues, you probably have a candida issue. And there's so many ways and so many factors. So we're going to break it down so that you understand what is candida.
Mhm.
Candida is a spore that creates yeast, mold, fungus, and it grows along the endothelial cells of the intestinal wall, and it starts to create havoc on the IMM, the intestinal mucosal membrane. And so when it starts to break down that membrane, it creates inflammation, and then you feed that candida, that yeast, and then all of a sudden you get a flare up. So sometimes you might notice that you get bloated and sometimes you don't. Maybe you get bloated just on an empty stomach. It has a lot to do with how those yeast cells, those spores, are interacting with the food coming in, but also the transit time, but also the byproduct of all the other microorganisms in the gut. So with candida, it releases something called mycotoxins, which are very harmful to your endocrine system, your hormonal system, your immune system, your gut health, your skin health, the healthy microbiome. It destroys it. And so if you leave this untreated, then what can happen is candida can turn into cancer. And what people don't realize is a healthy gut fights off cancer 10 times a year just with a healthy ecosystem. So if you have an unhealthy ecosystem, then what can happen is it can break down that IMM layer, that intestinal mucosal membrane layer, and actually rip off those endothelial cells, creating tiny little pores. And now the candida, the spores, which are microscopic, can actually penetrate out of the colon wall into the bloodstream and um, find an environment that it's favorable to grow in the rest of the body. Maybe it's the lymphatic, maybe it's the blood brain barrier, maybe it's along the skin. So we start to notice that you're getting an expression of candida. Everyone
Mm.
has it, but you just don't want to feed it, and you want to keep it in control, and you want to keep it managed. So to manage your candida is through diet, pH, water, stress, the four pillars. We talk about
Right.
this.
Right.
But how do you know if you have an inflamed candida? You'll get bloating, you'll get gas, digestive issues, physical structural changes of your colon, diverticulitis, colitis, Crohn's, twisting of the colon. You'll also notice that you'll have things in your neurological, so brain fog. Maybe you have a brain tumor, skin, maybe you have psoriasis, eczema, athlete's foot, maybe you have yeast infections, maybe you have just rashes, lots of weird little rashes all over the body. A lot of people will misdiagnose or misunderstand that this is actually an expression of the gut, because the body can't just send you an email and say, hey, something's wrong. It shows you in the form of characteristic traits. And so these traits, you don't want to just go to your dermatologist and just put a steroid cream on it and make it go away. No, 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 no. You need to look at the gut. You need to look at the Candida. So things like herbs like Artemisia, Podarco, or just Ayurvedic medicine, things that you have in your baking cabinet at home, cinnamon, nutmeg, cloves. All of these are daily things that you want to introduce so that the spores can't populate and grow. You want to stop them from reproduction. They are asexual, meaning they don't need a partner. They can just grow on their own. Okay. The other thing is you want to make sure it doesn't germinate, meaning it doesn't get fed. Sugar is so hard. So I get a lot of individuals coming in, they're drinking their kombucha and it's not working. And I'm like, well, let's check your Candida, because kombucha is only good for a healthy gut. If you have high Candida, the sugar content in the kombucha is actually going to make the fermentation worse, and you're going to have a higher Candida expression and more mycotoxins creating havoc on the body.
Yikes. So, a couple of things, because there was a lot of information there. We all have it. So Candida, we all have it.
Yes.
Fair to say? Okay. Now it, like everything, gut holds the key. It's the gut health. We know that is the target for getting to re-regulating our system. My question is, some of these external signs, rashes, yeast infection, things, do those happen when it passes and it starts to, whether it's through leaky gut or through the colon and into the body? Is that a sign of what's happening, or can those situations happen while it's still in the colon area or in the small intestines or whatever?
Usually it means that it's passed through the gut-brain barrier. Okay. So it's actually leaky gut. 95% of our population has leaky gut. Leaky gut takes 1 day to destroy and create a hole and 5 days to heal. So we actually have a leaky gut protocol, and you need to follow it for 5 days to patch up the holes of those endothelial cells of the intestinal wall. But if you go have a cheat day and you go binge on the weekend, then it's just going to set you back, and you're back 5 days and you got to do it all over again. So it's not to say that you don't want to go and have cheat days, but when you're going through a healing crisis, you want to make sure that you've had the symptom gone for 6 months or more before having a cheat day. Okay. So if you're someone that has athlete's foot and you've seen all the doctors, you're on all the antibiotics, all the ointments, everything, and it's not getting better, try the holistic pathway. It's not topical. It's internal. It's your gut health. Taking a look at your 4 pillars, do that. And then when the athlete's foot actually recovers, that's the day 1. So day 1 of when it's gone, that's when you count 6 months. That's when you can go and have a cheat day, because otherwise you're just going to destroy the endothelial cells again. They can't patch themselves back up. Your leaky gut is creating this, literally this toxic environment for the rest of the body, and it's not going to get better.
And maybe we, just a note, maybe we should do a leaky gut conversation at some point too.
We probably
because
should.
I know that you just said it. Everyone has, many people have issues with leaky gut. So getting back to Candida, the other thing that was interesting is that we're all looking for signs, right? Because, how do we know? And you said something interesting which is one day you could have bloating and then the next day you don't have bloating, or you eat a certain food and you have it and then you eat it the same exact food and you don't, or even on an empty stomach. And just to revisit that, why is that? Why does that happen?
Think of chemistry. You have to have all the variables line up in order to get a specific byproduct. Okay. So the 4 pillars, we always go back to that. Were you drinking the right water? And were you drinking enough of it? What's your cortisol level like? What was your nutrition like? Did you have a lot of sweets that day? Did you have a lot of refined processed sugars or breads or coffee or alcohol? Because remember, those things stay in the body for 4 to 7 days, changing the ecosystem and the chemistry of the gut. So the Candida is just waiting to get fed. It cannot wait for the fertilizer to come in. And so the spores will stay dormant for a very long time, and it's waiting for you to binge. Then the 4th one is your sleep, which will balance out your cortisol levels and balance out the nocturnal parasitic and bacterial load on the gut. Remember, the bad guys are nocturnal.
Right.
That's why we don't want to eat at bedtime.
Right.
And so what you want to think about is okay, managing your Candida, because everybody has it, by making sure that you're drinking 1 liter of water for every 50 pounds you weigh. And not all water's the same. You start drinking tap water. Tap water's full of chlorine. It's going to destroy any bacteria in the water, but you're more bacteria than human cells. So what's it going to do to the ecosystem of your gut? Destroy the good guys, making the Candida rise. So then the other thing you want to think about is A, managing, right? We talked about that with the 4 pillars. B, listening to your body. Do you have a bunch of red dots on the back of your arm? Do you have constant sugar cravings? Are you constantly hungry? Are you low energy? Do you have a white tongue in the morning when you look in the, right? Like all of these things. Do you have body odor when you haven't worked out? Like you want to think about these. Taking a look at your stool, taking a look at, there's just so many things. And so what people don't realize is it affects your hormonal system. And as women get older, PCOS, endometriosis, fibroids, that's all from Candida. It's Candida wound up with estrogen, creating havoc on your reproductive system. So if you treat the Candida and you balance out your blood sugar and you balance out your estrogen levels, PCOS, endometriosis, fibroids, gone. No surgery, no hysterectomy, no medications, and no more mood swings.
That was a mic drop right there. That was pretty awesome. That was super powerful. And I want to go back just to Candida for a moment, because these spores can lay dormant. So here's the thing. So my question for you is it impossible to get rid of Candida in the human body? Is it just about creating a nutritional plan and a lifestyle that basically keeps it in a dormant state 99% of the time? Is that kind of the goal that we're looking for?
We've never actually had proof that there's been a human being with no Candida. They will usually have at least anywhere from 5 to 50,000 cells of Candida.
Okay.
So that's just staying dormant. After that, though, you start to get the ignite. So for someone to follow a low cortisol lifestyle, drinking ionized water and never eating a processed food and keeping their sugars low and keeping their bowels moving and their activity moving, and like there's a lot. So maybe Gandhi, I don't know, but right. So
Right.
it's if that's something that you're looking for, that's not realistic for people.
Right.
Having zero Candida is just not realistic.
Okay.
But
Perfect.
managing your Candida so that you don't have symptomology, that's realistic, and that's what we're here to help you with.
Perfect. And on that note, you talked about some daily things that we can do You mentioned, I think, cloves and, and things like that. So give us a rundown of a protocol of a few things that, we can take, throw in a blender, do whatever it is to help us keep it in check.
Okay, so some of the herbs here, I am a licensed herbalist and I use over 300 herbs in my practice. And whenever I'm treating Candida, I always get people on a gut microbiome stabilizer. So it's called Bacillus coagulans, and they take 3 tablets a day. I get them on 3 doses of Artemisia a day. I get them on Podarco. I get them on black walnut, and I get them on a heavy metal detox. And then I make sure they're drinking ionized water, 1 liter for every 50 pounds you weigh. And then I make sure that you are taking some form of plant medicine. So you are introducing 70% of your diet should be green inside, clean inside, and making sure that you're washing the herbicides, pesticides, insecticides off, either using your medical device ionized water, the 11.5 pH water, to remove all that, or you're buying completely organic, which is a challenge. And then what I do is I get the individual to just be consistent, small portions, eating 5 to 7 times a day, drinking the water. If they like tea, I will get them on a cinnamon tea or put cinnamon sticks in their water. If you like to cook or bake, I love yams with some cinnamon, or you can make some gluten-free oatmeal with some cloves or some nutmeg, or things like that. So I do put together a whole nutritional meal plan
Nice.
for the individual, and it's a gut restore program. You need to restore the gut, and you need to be consistent.
Okay, perfect. So Vitality Wellness has a protocol in place for that. And then a precursor to that is obviously you would do some sort of Candida screen, or you would take them through a protocol to determine in fact that they had it, or what the flare-ups are, and all of that. So I'm understanding
we do
that
a gut test. So we actually test your levels before and after the program. So we test your levels
perfect.
before, we identify where the Candida is, if it's migrated or moved, and how many mycotoxins, the fungus, the mold, all of that. So we test all that throughout the entire body, all 11 body systems, because it might not just be in the gut, it could also be in other areas. And then we do the program for between 1 to 3 months, and then we test you again to make sure that it's been eradicated.
Perfect. And from the sounds of the gut restoration protocol that you're talking about, that would be a game changer in of itself for most people, right? Regardless of a severe case of Candida in their body or not, because many of us, I should say not all, but many of us have gut issues, and a healthy gut is the pathway to, like we talked about last week, to the hypothalamus and the pituitary and hormone creation and oxytocin, and you just also talked about the Candida in terms of an estrogen and what that can do. And so again, gang, the gut is the place. The gut is the thing, right?
You want to take care of your good microbes.
Yeah. It's amazing. Okay. Ariel Jarvis. So we've talked Candida. Is there any final words for anyone out there that, may be feeling like maybe they have this, or they have some rashes, or they notice the red spots on the back of the arm. Maybe they didn't never give it much thought, right? What can they do, and how can we help? Boom.
Start with your diet. Just keep it simple. Start with your water and your diet. You will go through withdrawal. Okay. So Candida is a funny thing. It actually it lights up the hippocampus the same way as cocaine. Okay. For sugar. So sugar lights up the hippocampus. And so when you go through cutting out the sugar, you're going to go through emotional withdrawal and physical withdrawal. You're going to have to feel worse before you feel better. This is called a Herxheimer reaction. And so I encourage you to just push through, because there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and making sure you have a support group, just like you would if you were going through AA. You have to have a sugar support group. And so if you're doing this alone, you have to have a why. There has to be a reason. It
Always.
can't just because you saw some cool trend. There's got to be a reason. And you need to remind yourself of that reason every single day. Because unfortunately, if you do cave, you have to start over again. It's not just like, oh, I'm going to do 90 days of no sugar. And then on day 18, I caved. And then I'm just going to go back to day 19. No, you start back at day 1, right? It's if it was easy, everyone would do it, but it's so rewarding. I always do a Candida cleanse. I'm actually on one right now. So I'm doing absolutely no sugar for 11 weeks. And I went through 2 days, right after Christmas. I was like, whoo, I went through 2 days of like really struggling. I was crying. I was emotional. And I was like, what is wrong with me? I was addicted to sugar. And I wasn't eating like processed sugar. I was eating things like dates, raisins, prunes, but those are all high fermented sugars, right? So just being mindful about, what's healthy as well. It's still a sugar. And so work on your gut and have a support system, maybe do it with a friend or family, and just know that life's going to pass you by. And if you can work on your health, that's the best investment.
100%. Beautiful. And I'm just going to nail home, gang, no matter what you want to do in your life, get healthy, cure Candida, build a business, find that romantic partner that you've always wanted. You got to create the story behind it. What's the why? Everything has to have an emotional thread to the journey, or you'll deviate and misalignment will happen. So love that. Thank you for that point. And Ariel, always a pleasure. We will be back, everybody, next Monday, and we'll bring some more health and wellness conversations your way.
Anti-aging.
Right.
Next Monday is anti-aging. I'm actually 75, everybody. No.
Look at that. Fountain of youth. There it is. Okay, so we'll see everybody next week. Ariel, keep up the great work, and we'll talk to you soon as well. All right.
Have a good one. Bye.
Bye, everyone.